Welcome back to the Finance Cowboy Show. I'm super excited to hang out with you guys this week, and you're very, very lucky because my wife has been out of town all week visiting her grandparents out in the middle of nowhere, Kansas, which means I have been left completely with all 4 kids by myself. Okay, that's kind of a lie because I wouldn't be giving my mom and dad credit if I said all by myself, because they've helped a ton. They've helped get them to bed 2 nights out of the week, and then the babysitter's coming tomorrow night. So I really can't complain that much. But I will say it has affected me enough to where I haven't necessarily got to prepare as much for this podcast as I do for the rest of them. And that could be good or bad. I think it's going to be good because it'll be a little more raw and really from my thoughts more than scripted out. I know exactly what I want to tell you. I know the point that I want to get across, and this is going to be very helpful for you. And I think it's going to be helpful for a lot of people that you know. So this is more of a broader topic. A lot of times I'll talk about specific real estate strategies. My wife came on a couple of weeks ago and we talked about what we did to get to where we are today. This is going to be an episode where we talk about the top 4 reasons for why you are broke. Now, that could be you, or it could have been the previous version of you, or this may be 25 different people that you know. And so I want you to listen to this. I want you to take in these nuggets, and then I want to ask you to share them with as many people as possible as you listen. You guys have heard my story, and I'll talk about this more as I go through this episode. But people see the Finance Cowboy brand now, and they're like, man, this dude's crushing it. He owns all this real estate. He's got this cool brand. He flips all these houses, all this cool stuff, right? Well, for years, it wasn't like that. I was broke. I was the classic broke guy. I come from no money, right? My dad's a pastor, had a great upbringing, fantastic family. I love them to absolute death. But money wasn't like a huge thing that we talked about. We weren't investing. We weren't definitely weren't buying real estate like we do today. And so I didn't really have a concept of it. It's not my parents' fault. It's not anybody's fault. I was focused on one thing in life. Okay, baseball. There's probably 2 things. I probably focused on girls, as well, but I think every teenage dude does. But for the main part, I was really, really focused on baseball, and I didn't really care about what my future was going to be beyond that. I just loved playing ball, being with the guys, hanging out every day. Well, eventually that ended. For me, it ended right after college. I wasn't good enough to play professional ball. And so what happened was I had a really, really, really real wake-up call. I graduated college with over $60,000 in student loans. I think it was like right at 65 grand. That's with the baseball scholarship. Now, you don't get full rides with baseball because they have 9 scholarships at our school. It's a small Division I, 9 scholarships to fill a 40-man roster. So as you can imagine, they had to divvy that up, and I had about a 45%, but I was at a private college, and so I came out with $65,000 in student loans. Then I had to buy me a truck after I graduated. That's 25 grand. Bought my wife a wedding ring, and then racked up 10 to 15 grand in credit card debt. Next thing you know, I'm 22, 23 years old, and I have $110,000, $115,000 in debt, and I'm making $45,000 a year working at a uniform company. So I'd wake up at about 3:50, 4 o'clock every morning. I'd get into the plant between 4:30 and 5. I always stop by Dunkin' Donuts on the way, listen to Charles Stanley preach a sermon, come stumbling into the plant at 4:30 or 5 o'clock. Nobody wanted to be there. Load my truck up, drove this ugly old box truck, and I'd go around town for the next 10 to 12 hours out of the day, and I would deliver clean uniforms. I'd pick up dirty uniforms. I'd deliver clean shop towels, pick up dirty ones, floor mats, urinal cakes. It was crazy, but it was great. It taught me a lot of things. But that's not what this is about. I'm just telling you, I was making $45,000 doing that while being over $100,000 in debt, and I was very early in my 20s. And so I just say that to set this table for this episode that what I'm about to teach comes from the school of hard knocks, right? Now, some people will teach theory, people that have never done anything. There's lots of people who will sit there and teach you like they've been through something and never have. I have been through this. I know why people are broke because I have been broke. And it took me 5 years from 2013 to 2018, okay? 2013 to 2018, all I did was climb out of the financial mess that I had set for myself. Now, would I change a lot of things? I would have still gone to that same college, taken out that same debt to be able to play baseball for 4 years. My 4-year baseball experience that I had playing Division I ball is my lifelong dream is worth way more than $65,000. So I don't consider that a failure, right? I probably could have done some better stuff with scholarships and all that. We can get to the weeds on that. But I had an absolute blast. But I know what it feels like to be broke and drowning in debt. And so I want to address why you're broke, why your friends are broke, why your family are broke, why your spouse, I love you spouse, if your other spouse has you listening to this, why you kind of have a broke mentality and a broke mindset. And I want to help you work through that so that you can prosper, right? I'm kind of like Joel Osteen here tonight. Just kidding, not to hate on Joel Osteen. We're prosperity preaching. The good thing is I'm not a preacher. Everybody else in my family is, dad, brother, uncles, but I'm not. So I'm just teaching prosperity from logical, real-life scenarios, not saying if you're a Christian, you're going to be prosperous. So let's talk about number one. I want to go through 4 different reasons, the top 4 reasons why you are broke. And let's start with number 1, which is you are spending more money than you make. And I know that sounds so elementary, but it's actually statistically not. I think we think that if I just had more income, that would be my answer to everything. And I think we should strive for more income. My entire career, I have been on a knock on wood, an incline of making more money. But when I really started building wealth, I hadn't really started making the big bucks even then when I started building wealth. Because what I learned is that, yes, income helps. The more income you have, the faster you can propel yourself to financial freedom. But if you do not learn to control your spending now, I can guarantee you're not going to be able to control it when you make more. Listen, I work with folks who make 4, 5, 7, $1 million, $1.5, $2 million. And you know what they continue to do is they continue to increase their lifestyle, and they are living, I don't want to say paycheck to paycheck, but some of them are living just as tight as the person making $50,000 with a single income. I'm telling you, I can see the lady's face that I worked with a couple years ago who was making $350 to $450 a year. And she literally was living paycheck to paycheck because she had to have a Range Rover. Husband had to have the BMW. They had to join the nicest country club in this massive city that they lived in. And she had all this income coming in that she could have changed her life with, but they were living paycheck to paycheck. And that's what happens to everybody, no matter they're making 50 grand or whether they're making $1 million, if they do not have discipline. Okay. People are spending money they don't have to buy things they don't need to impress people that they don't even like. And newsflash, those people probably don't like you either. So let's check out some of these statistics that we have here in the United States to prove the point that people spend way too much than they should. Right now, we have $1.61 trillion in vehicle debt with an average of $600 a month car payment. There's $1.2 trillion in credit card debt with the average credit card payment being $430 per month. The average American spends $219 a month in subscriptions. They spend $300 a month in dining cost. Yet 78% of people live paycheck to paycheck in the U.S. 78% of people live paycheck to paycheck in the U.S. You are broke, your friends are broke, your family are broke because they have no self-control. No wonder we're living paycheck to paycheck. We got $600 a month car payments, $430 credit card bills. That's over $1,000 a month right there eating up. 200 plus in subscriptions. All these dining. I think 300 a month in dining is low. I mean, mine's higher than that. You got all this stuff that's adding up. There's no wonder that we're living paycheck to paycheck. It's not an income problem. Yes, we need to make more money, but I want you guys to understand something. You do not deserve more money until you can prove that you can steward what you have today. That is one of the biggest lessons I have learned along my wealth building journey. I'm telling you guys, I've been broke as a joke, and I've been financially prosperous where we sit today. And I was smart enough or simple enough to learn at a very, very young age in my early 20s that if I could not develop the discipline today to manage what God has given me at this moment, which was a $45,000 salary and whatever else I had coming in, not much, doing some side gigs, then how in the world could I expect to be able to manage millions of dollars coming in? A multi-million dollar real estate portfolio, multiple businesses with employees underneath me. There's no way that you can learn to steward that grandiose vision that you have. You can't steward that until you learn to steward what you currently have. There are levels to this game. It's easy to look at other folks and be like, man, I want to be where they're at. Well, you're not allowed to be where they're at because you haven't gone through the levels. It's like playing Mario or Zelda or whatever the popular games are now. There are levels you have to achieve to be the big boss, and you have to pay your dues. Anything you want that's worth having in life, dues have to be paid to receive it. How do we change it? Well, first you have to grow up. You have to be an adult, and you have to have some discipline, okay? But tactically, the first thing that anybody and everybody should do, no matter what stage you're at, is you have to put together a budget and understand exactly how much money you have coming in and what you have going out. The app that I like, I don't have any affiliation to it, is Dave Ramsey's Every Dollar app. You use whatever app you want, okay? But the point is we have to put on paper what we have coming in and what's going out. What are we doing with our disposable income, which we'll talk about later in this episode. Imagine running a business and never looking at your balance sheet, never looking at your P&Ls, never seeing the amount of income you have coming in versus what you're spending. What if Google did that, Apple did that, Amazon did that, Meta did that, Walmart, Home Depot, name any company you can think of. Do you think that they just don't look at their finances? Yet 90% plus of Americans operate like that, which is why most people work for other folks, which there's nothing wrong with, because they don't even have the discipline to be able to take care of their own crap. How are they going to be able to run a company? And so we've got to be able to have the discipline to sit down, list out everything we have, and then we've got to look at that and we've got to say, okay, we're going to cut this fluff. Once we know what we're spending, and it hurts, baby. It hurts to sit there and look at that budget and see what you have coming in and what you're spending. You're like, holy crap, how did I just spend $1,500 out to eat? Or how did I spend $700 at Amazon? Or how do I have $450 in subscriptions? It really, really hurts to do that, but it's an exercise you have to go through and then go through and cut off all the fluff you have. We want to have mortgage covered, food covered, vehicle, utilities. Other than that, let's start getting rid of stuff immediately that you do not have to have until we can build up that disposable income, which is extra income that we have that we can go deploy in other places, that allows us to start propelling ourselves to wealth. The second thing that keeps people broke is they have the wrong view of money. Now, listen, I'm not a big rah-rah motivational speaker type guy. I don't get amped up by the idiots who talk on social media and they get real amped up. It doesn't do anything for me. And I used to not believe, really, that limiting beliefs even. You hear people talk about that? I didn't even believe that those were real. I just was like, okay, this is just a buzzword to get people's attention. But I have got to say, I was ridiculously naive, okay? The older I get, the more I realize that the only person in most people's way are themselves. The only person in most people's way are themselves, except the problem, and this isn't even in my notes, but it just popped in my mind. The problem is so many folks want to play the victim mentality. And so instead of looking in the mirror and conquering the limiting beliefs, we want to blame everybody else. You want to know how far you're going to get in life doing that? Nowhere. If that is you, address it right now listening to this and start taking personal responsibility for where you are today. I don't care what happened previously in your life, and I know that a lot of people go through a lot of different things that make it very hard for them to move forward. But you have to overcome that. You have to conquer that and look in the mirror and say, starting today, I'm in charge of what my life is going to look like moving forward. And it's a shame because most people were raised to have this broke mentality, because broke people, which is the majority of our country in the United States, are taught that money is simply a means to survival. So we go to work, clock in, put in the 8 hours, clock out, go home, use the money we made to survive until next week, pay the truck bill, pay for dinner, pay the minimum on the credit card, pay the subscriptions. But people really have no concept of the true tool that money is. where the wealthy, the 1%, understand that, okay, yeah, we have to have money to survive. That's elementary. But then they look at it as this most precious tool that is going to give them everything they want in life. The financial freedom, the time freedom, for me, the house on acreage, having the nanny and being able to homeschool your kids, keeping your significant other at home, all the things that we long for. The only way we're going to get there is by looking at money through the lens of the wealthy and overcoming the limiting beliefs that money is just for survival and that we just have to hold on to it because we got to protect it. We work so hard for it. If my team can throw up this graphic of the value of the dollar over time, and then also show them, team, what inflation has looked like over time. If you see this, inflation has just drastically ran rampant in the United States, pretty much all time, but especially since the 70s. And look at what's happened to the dollar. It's going up and down and up and down and up and down, but it's worth today what it was in the 1970s. It's not gaining in value. And so you're working hard for this money, and then you're scared to part with it. You think it's, it's just basic survival. And then mom and dad, and then they taught me just to save as much money as I can. Hold on to my money. Well, guess what? That money, additional money that you're holding on to, is literally not growing in value whatsoever. And we'll talk about that more in a minute. But it absolutely blows my mind. But the rich, the wealthy, yeah, they understand that we got to have the basic survival needs. But then they take every dollar that it doesn't cost them to survive, and they deploy it into vehicles that pay them back over time. They take every dollar that it doesn't take to survive, and they deploy them into assets that are going to make them wealthy over time. And then those assets start affording them the luxuries that we all desire. And the crazy thing is, it's not rocket science. This isn't some groundbreaking theory that we've now made tangible. This is just common sense, but the majority of people can never make that mental switch, and it holds them back forever. And so if you will think rich, then you will be rich. It's no secret that if you're going to be successful in real estate investing, you have to be able to fund your deals. Whether you're doing the BRRRR method or whether you're fixing and flipping properties for a profit, you got to be able to get to the closing table with money, and you got to have money to rehab the property. And so I personally use backflip capital when I need money to get to the closing table and to rehab my properties. I'm in the middle of a flip right now, and I partner with Backflip. It has been the smoothest process of all time. I literally went on their app, applied for the loan. You get pre-approved in less than 48 hours. You can lock in funding in just a few seconds with the touch of a button. Funding takes less than 2 weeks. Hello, that gives you an advantage when you're making offers on properties. And I can't say enough about partnering with Backflip Capital. They're great folks with a fantastic product that everybody listening to this should check out for the next time you go to do a BRRRR deal or fix and flip property. So here's what I want you to do. Go down to the show notes of this show. I've put a link for Backflip Capital in those notes. All you have to do is click the link so that you can download their app and get your next deal funded with Backflip. Third thing that is keeping you broke is you're too short-sighted. So I've had the opportunity to interview hundreds of millionaires. And there are two common themes that I hear from every single interview from rich people that they attribute to making them wealthy. The first is networking, okay? We won't dive into that one. The first is networking. Everybody say, oh, that's so cliche. Well, you want to be wealthy, you want to achieve something in life, you need to put yourself around as many people as possible who have already done what you're wanting to do, and you're going to get there a lot faster. That's just a hack. Take that. If you don't take anything else from this episode, take that. Go put yourself in rooms of people who are already where you want to be, and they're going to get you there a lot faster. That's literally what I do every day, mentoring folks. People come into my world. I teach, and our team teaches hundreds of people how to invest in single-family homes and residential real estate, buying distressed properties using the BRRRR method and fix and flips, and they come and they do it. Why? Because they've sat on the sidelines wanting to do this for years, not sure how to do it, and then all of a sudden they're like, you know what, I'm sick of this. I'm putting myself in a community who's doing it, and then guess what? They go do it, because what happens is things that seem far-fetched, just things that just seem like a myth or a legend become real and become tangible when you put yourself around people who are already doing it. That happened with me with real estate with my best friend Gaston. I always thought, oh, I can't get into real estate. It's just for the rich people, blah, blah, blah. And then I started hanging out with him when I moved back into town, and he was buying a bunch of real estate, a lot of real estate. And I was like, well, shoot, he's doing it. All these other people that I know connected to him are doing it. Well, I can do this. And next thing you know, 6 years later, we have a portfolio well over $5 million, and we're sitting in a pretty darn good spot. But outside of networking, the second thing that I hear from millionaires, and probably the more frequent one, is delayed gratification. Or as my father put it growing up, you can either play now or pay later, or you can pay now and play later. Which one are you going to choose? Either way, like I mentioned earlier, dues have to be paid. Think about this. How many people do you know that make all of their big purchasing decisions purely based on emotion? Or better yet, they try to justify that emotional purchase with a logical response after, but it ends up sounding ridiculously outlandish to everyone around them except for them. I know I'm thinking of tons of people right now who know financially they shouldn't buy that new car. They shouldn't go on that massive vacation. They shouldn't do X. They shouldn't put the furniture they want on a credit card, but they do it because they don't have the discipline to say no. They will not embrace delayed gratification. So they make this dumb purchase based on their finances today, and then they know it's dumb. So then when they tell everybody around them, they try to justify it with, well, I deserve this. I haven't bought a new car in so long. We've been driving that 2019 and, we just needed to upgrade to the 2024. Like, what? Bro, I'm worth more than most people in my network, and my wife and I drive paid off 2019s. And it blows my mind the amount of people who are living paycheck to paycheck, and I pull up next to them and their car makes me look like a little peasant. But the reason is, and this isn't to toot my own horn, I'm trying to drive the point home, is that they do not have the discipline to be able to say no. They want to get to this certain place. They want to be different. They want to have the finer things in life, but they get caught with the short-sighted purchases that are going to give them that immediate hit in the brain. They're going to be super excited. I got my new car, feel good. And then you know what happens? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks later, what happens? You guys have been there before. It wears off. And now you're just stuck with this payment of this thing you bought that didn't fulfill you as much as you wanted it to. And so when you can understand that those material things are not going to give you true fulfillment over time, like financial freedom will, and like having your time, whenever you can realize that, that's when you're going to have your breakthrough. Because every time that you make an emotional purchase that affects your finances that you probably shouldn't have done, you have to understand that you didn't just pay for that with money. You paid for that with your future time. And so now you've just said, I am willing to work years longer so I can drive this newer car. I'm willing to work years longer because I ran up this credit card debt, or because I bought this furniture, or whatever you spent the money on. And you get into that mindset that you are paying for things in time, not with money. And that is how the rich think. And so I'll close that part up with this. If you're going to make stupid purchases, first off, you shouldn't, but then just do it. Don't try to justify it, okay? But don't be the person who gets gung-ho, I'm going to change my financial future, blah, blah. And then something expensive catches your eye and you act immediately, but just because you can't control yourself. Don't be that person anymore. Don't let the first sign of stress or a hard day or a hard work or you feeling good about something allow you to go and make a bad decision that's going to impact your financial future moving forward. Instead, zoom out. Don't be short-sighted. Think long-term. Play the long game and make every financial decision in your life based on how is this going to affect me 3 years, 5 years, 10, 15, 20 down the road? Is this going to get me to my ultimate goals of financial freedom and controlling my time, or is this going to hurt me? If this is going to hurt me, which some things are worth compromising for, in the short term. It's okay to compromise sometimes, but you have to say, is this particular thing actually worth that compromise for my short-term gain, or is it not? And most often than not, it's not going to be worth it. And I'm telling you guys this from personal experience. Those 5 years that I paid off debt, guys, we lived this. And so I'm not just saying this. I've been there. I know it's not easy. Look, we were living this life for 5 years while paying off debt. And then we were even living this life after that, even up to today. And now we're a little more spoiled because we built a lot of wealth. But even when we started our real estate journey, everybody around us who really probably weren't doing as well as we were, they're buying the new cars. We have a lake in town, so everybody has a boat. They're going on these big vacations. They're renovating their houses and spending all their money or taking out a HELOC to put new bathrooms in, new flooring, new kitchen. And here we are. We're seeing all this. All of our friends are doing it. And then they come to our house and we have these beat up cars. We had this house that's literally always in renovation that we're doing by ourselves. Not taking out any HELOCs, not taking out any debt. We're literally piecing it together month by month when we get to it, when we have a little bit of excess capital. And so we look as though we're living this like rags life. And for a while we were. But even after we cleaned up our debt, we kept living like that because we knew, okay, if we can keep this lifestyle, which people are going to make comments, they're going to make fun of us. Oh, you need to buy your wife a new car, Jaron. No, I don't. She's a perfectly fine car. My truck, at the time, 2012 F-150, is getting me where I need to go. Instead of doing what you guys are doing because you're broke, I'm going to take my capital and I'm going to go invest in real estate. So all these years while everybody else is lining, their garages and their houses with all these material things, not adding any assets to their life, we're buying rental properties and we're flipping houses. In the first year, we buy 2 to 3 properties. In the second year, we learned the W-2 Millionaire method that I teach, and we bought 19 properties. And we buy a bunch in 2020 and 21 and 22 and 23 and 24. And everybody's asking, what are you doing? What are you doing, bro? And you're posting this on social media. And then today, we live in the 5,600 square foot house on 11 acres with the lake, and we can travel all over the world, and we can do whatever we want. We have a full-time nanny. And the questions went from condescending, what are you doing, bro? Buy nice stuff, to, hey, man, like, how do I do what you're doing? I swear to God, people ask me all the time, bro, church, the YMCA, I'll be out at dinner. Like, it doesn't matter where I'm at. If I'm at a conference speaking, bro, how do I do what you're doing? Well, it's like, bro, you were just clowning on me a couple years ago. I don't think you're ready to do what I'm doing, because to do what I do is going to take a lot of sacrifice. And you kind of like that oxytocin hit or whatever it's called on the brain of buying new things when you're a little stressed or you need to pick me up. And I don't think you're ready to do what we did. But if you are, here's how we did it. And that reminds me, while I'm going on this rant, don't take money advice from broke people. I don't care if it's your mom, your dad, your aunt, your uncle, your cousin, your brother, your sister, your best friend. If they are broke, they can be your friend. They can be your family. You can hang out with them all the time. Do not take money advice from them. I had so many broke people trying to tell me what I should do with my money along my journey. I didn't listen to one ounce of advice, quote unquote, that they gave me. Not one. I looked at them and I loved them for so many other things, and I take their advice in so many different areas. You got some of these people that'll talk about, if people don't want to do what you want to do financially and they don't want to do this, then you should just cut them out of your life. No, you shouldn't. I don't cut people out of my life. I just don't listen to their financial advice because they obviously aren't very smart about it. And so you've got to stop taking advice from people who have no idea what they're talking about and start listening to people who are already where you want to go. And the last reason you're broke is because you don't invest your money. And I got the cart before the horse, and I showed you guys the graph of inflation and the value of money over time. Probably should have waited and showed it here, but that's what you get when I don't plan out this episode as good. But I will show you this graph of real estate over time. This is absolutely insane. Look at this. You ever talk to people who've bought homes in the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, and they're like, man, I made a lot of money on my property, right? I made a lot of money on my property. Real estate is an asset that since the beginning of time, not just the last couple years, not speculative, since the beginning of time has made people wealthy. That's all there is to it. 70% of Americans own their primary home. Not only do 70% of Americans own their primary home, but that is the main source of the storage of wealth for most Americans. And so you would think that people would be able to look and say, all right, I bought this primary home that I live in. I've lived in it for 3 to 5 years, and it's created me $150,000 in equity. Or maybe it created somebody $250,000 or $400,000 or $500,000 worth of equity in 3, 5, 7 years. And real estate does this. The personal home, I'm not even talking about real estate investing. The personal home does this for millions of Americans across the country every year. And so you think, logically, people would say, okay, so I've bought this primary home, this asset of real estate. I've lived in it for a couple of years, and man, it made me $200,000 to $300,000 in equity. Man, I sold that thing. I made a pretty penny. And then you take it and you just go invest into the next house because it's your primary home. But you think that they would say, all right, I bought a house and it made me wealthy. That's great. I'm going to keep living in this one because I need a place to live. But I'm then going to go buy as many other properties as I can as investments and stack those up, because not only has it proved itself over time, but it proved itself to them in their real life that it is going to make them wealthy. But they don't go and add more properties. Logically, you would say, bro, this thing works. Okay, great. I got mine. Let me go just stack as many as I can. People do not do it. It absolutely blows my mind. You know how I know they don't do it? Because if you look at the data, only 7% of Americans invest in real estate outside of their personal home. What are we doing? How are 70% of us living in a home that we paid for and it's making us ridiculously wealthy? There's no other avenue that's making us as much wealth, but then we stop there and only 7% of us are smart enough to say, we're going to continue doing this outside of our personal home. We have to close that gap. If you are not part of that 7%, you have to help close that gap. You got to take us from 7 to 8, from 8 to 9, 9 to 10. You have to get in the game. Logically, what you are doing is not making sense. If you make a good income, you don't have a ton of debt, you have disposable income, and you're not buying real estate, you are literally, listen to me, you are literally robbing from your future self. You're robbing from your future self. If you're scared to let go of your money and put it into real estate, I've already shown you the graph earlier. Your money is losing, has stayed the same since the 70s. And I'm telling you, as inflation goes up, it's going to continue to lose value over time. And your spending power has already lost a ton of value because the price of goods have gone up. Well, if you look at that graph of real estate, that is how you hedge against inflation. And they're going to continue printing money. So just from an inflationary standpoint, protect yourself from inflation, if anything, through real estate. If you can't get through your mind any of the other benefits, such as leverage, cash flow, appreciation, forced appreciation, tenant buy down, tax benefits, if you can't wrap your mind around that greatest concoction ever known to man, at least say, well, this guy, this redneck with a cowboy hat, he has a pretty good point. Inflation's not going to slow down ever in the United States. I should probably hedge against it. Let me go buy some rental properties. And guys, if you can get this through your head, this saying right here, you will be able to give yourself the best chance to move forward with buying the greatest asset known to man. There's no better asset to invest in. There's different things you can get in the stock market, S&P 500. If you got a match at your work for 401k, fine. Put some money in there if you want. But you can't beat the value of what real estate does for you, the returns that it gives you from all those levers that I just talked about. And so we've got to get to the point where we truly understand and we truly believe that it is riskier for our future to not invest in real estate than it is to actually invest in real estate. Listen to me. I'm going to say it one more time. It is riskier for your future to not invest in real estate than it is to invest in real estate. Every day that you don't put your money to work, you are robbing from your future. You are literally robbing from your future. And so it may be a confidence thing. It may be an education thing. It may be, Jaron, I feel like I'm too busy. Look, I hear you. We've all been there. Every person, that 7% of people who've decided to invest in real estate and have completely changed their life, They've all been there. They didn't have the education, right? They didn't feel secure doing it. They were busy. Literally the method that I teach, and I'll put the link down in the show notes so you can go click on it and learn about what we do and set up a time to chat with our team should you want to. But the method that I developed, that I teach, is literally called the W-2 Millionaire Method, because we teach people how to buy real estate while they continue to work their full-time job, while they're raising their family. I've been doing this while working full-time and raising 4 kids and having my beautiful wife and my golden retriever who's sitting right to my right here the entire time. They are coaching their kids' sports team. They're involved in their community. They're involved in church. They have side gigs. Look, people are busy. You're busy. I'm busy, but that's not an excuse to rob from your future. And there's a method of buying real estate that you can apply to your life where you are today that will allow you to prepare for your future, to give you that financial freedom and that time freedom without having to sacrifice your current life. I think there's this myth that it's like, well, you know, if I got a job, I can't invest in real estate. Or if I got a family, I can't invest in real estate. To do real estate, you have to go full time. And that would mean I'd have to quit what I'm doing at work and spend a lot of money and do a lot of risk. And that's just not true. That is just not true. The best way to buy real estate is to keep your job and leverage it. It's a safety net when you invest while having your job. It gives you additional income to be able to buy properties. And one of the greatest things about having a job while buying real estate is it makes you ridiculously loanable to banks, to hard money lenders, to private money lenders. People will be like, bro, I want to lend to that dude because he's got stable income coming in. And so you're literally so far ahead of everybody else who's not in your position because you're a candidate that people say, I want to partner with this person. And so if you've been on the fence about investing and you haven't got into real estate yet, I want to encourage you to do it. Okay. If you've got somebody locally who can help you, somebody that you already know that's doing it, team up with them and learn everything you can. If you don't have that, let me and my team be that person for you. We have our system down, the W-2 Millionaire Method. We coach people from all over the country and teach them how to buy real estate all over the country. And you don't have to do it in your backyard. Most people that I work with invest out of state. You don't have to be handy. You don't have to manage your tenants. You don't have to be a contractor. None of that stuff. We teach you how to do this with other folks, building a team out so they handle it for you while you're continuing to live your life, but you're building and preparing for your future while enjoying and living your life to the fullest. And so you may be broke today or you may not be broke, but you may not have implemented all these things. But if you can apply these 4 things, which is spending less than you make, changing your view of money, being long-sighted instead of short-sighted, and then actually taking your income and investing it into an asset like real estate to build wealth over time, you are going to put yourself on the road and start the journey to something that can completely change your life in the future if you allow it. When I started, I had all that money in debt. I was making $45,000 a year, had negative net worth. And today we sit at a multi-million-dollar net worth with a huge real estate portfolio, financial freedom, time freedom. I choose what my days look like. I'm leaving a legacy for my children. I'm able to raise them and teach them how I want, get time with my wife because we got full-time nannies. Everything that we've wanted, that we set out 11 years ago to accomplish, following these 4 steps that I said today has gotten us there. And it's a journey and it's going to take work and everybody's pace is going to be different. But if you will apply these to your life, you're going to give yourself a great opportunity to be able to get to where you want to go in the future. And so if you found this video helpful, this podcast helpful, if you would, if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, like this video, share it with somebody who could use this. If you're listening on a podcast platform, please leave a 5-star review and write a review as well. It helps us be able to reach more people so that we can help them on their journey to building financial and time freedom while working a full-time job, raising a family, being busy, doing all the things that we've got to do. It is accessible to the average everyday person. I'm living proof, and I want you to join that club as well. Thanks for hanging out with me today. I'll see you next time.